So Nate, I mean, at this point in your career, you've probably worked with hundreds of people. I mean, what would you say is a good amount of money to start this concept with? And typically, like, how much does it cost? And typically, is it typically best for like business owners or real estate investors, or like, what would you say is the right demographic for this infinite banking concept?
So this is something that's often misunderstood, and really the asset class of whole life insurance in general is probably the most misunderstood asset class. Infinite banking can really be applied to anyone that has some discipline in their life and also some disposable income in their life. Every strategy in life requires a certain amount of discipline in order to be successful. So the fact that I'm saying you got to have discipline should not be a shocker to anyone. But you've got to have some disposable income. Now, how much disposable income? Some people fund their strategies with like 500 a month. Now, we have some clients who fund their policies with like six figures a year. They're putting thousands of dollars a month into their
Yeah.
strategies.
Right.
And as far as the demographic, as far as who this works well with, I would say typically business owners and people who understand cash flow tend to grasp the concept a lot quicker than most people. But anyone who has some discipline and some disposable income can apply this concept in their life and have a lot of success with it. A question that people say is, how much does it cost? Well, the amount of money that you put into it is determined based on your situation. And that's one of the things that really drew me to the concept initially. It's because I have a background in ministry. I did youth and music ministry and even pastored a church. And so anybody who knows anything about church ministry knows that you typically don't go into it for the money, or you shouldn't go into it
Right.
for the money for sure. But most people who are in ministry are not there because they're getting paid very well to do what they're doing. And I've always been bivocational in what I've done when I've been in ministry. And what that means is I've always done something on the side in order to support my family because I've got four kids. Feeding six people in a house is not cheap. and
Yeah.
so I've always kind of done something on the side while I've been serving in the church. We did not have a whole lot of money whenever we first got started with our strategy for infinite banking. So I got
Mm.
started with what I had to work with at the time. And when I saw what it could do for me, I realized very quickly that if it could work for me, that it could work for just about anybody.
Mm.
And so about 99% of the people that we connect with, we're able to show them some sort of strategy that gets them moving in the right direction. There are rare occasions where we tell someone, I know you're excited about this, but it's just not a good fit for you right now. But for the
Mm.
most part, we're able to show somebody a solution that gets them moving in the right direction.
Mm. Cool. So in some situations, you have to tell people we're sorry. Like, we don't think this strategy is a good fit for you. So in what situation is infinite banking not a good fit for certain people?
I would say if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you are just, drowning, so to speak, when it comes to not really drowning, but you haven't created enough separation between your expenses and your
Income.
income, I would say it's typically not going to be a good fit for you. Now, there's been some cases where we connected with someone where they didn't feel like they had any disposable income, but it's
Mm.
because they needed somebody else, a different set of eyes to actually look at their situation. Because most people, not everybody, but most people have resources at their disposal, but they haven't been taught how to use them properly. And
Mm.
so there was a situation one time where a guy came to me and said, "Man, my buddy has been telling me about this." So he was a referral from one of our existing members of our organization. So he said, "My buddy has been telling me about this and I'm excited about it. The problem is, like, I don't think I really have any money to get started." I said, "Well, let's just have a conversation." So we sat down and looked at his situation. And in one conversation, we found roughly $1,600 a month that he could actually swing back his direction and start applying the concept with. Just because you don't feel like you have any money doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we won't have a conversation with you
Mm.
to ultimately determine if this is going to be a good fit for you or not. And the last thing that we're going to do is set you out on a path where you're not going to be successful. So we're going to be very upfront and open with you about if this is going to be a good fit for you or not. Because if you're successful with your strategy, that is success for us, because we
Mm,
want to see you win. We want to see people
right.
win. And if people aren't winning, then we're not doing our job.
That's right. That's right. Yes, sir. Okay, so Nate, I know you've probably heard some very respected people in the space, in the personal finance space, like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. They're like, infinite banking is a scam. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion is believing that infinite banking is a scam is really the scam.
Hmm.
Because people hear that and they automatically are listening to these talking heads out there, and they're not doing their
Mm,
own research. That is why we spend so much time educating someone and helping them understand what infinite banking is and what it's not, so that they can make an educated decision about their future and as far as if they feel like infinite banking is a good fit for them or not. But
mm,
the what they're really saying about infinite banking is that whole life insurance is a scam. And the reality is, I've worked with a lot of very, very successful people in the last few years. And almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them already had whole life insurance in place. They just never were taught how to be their own banker with it. So if you just remove infinite banking altogether and just look at whole life insurance by itself, whole life insurance, if it really was a scam, if it really was the worst place in the world to put your money, it would have been a dead product over 200 years ago. Nobody would have put money into this thing. But the reality is, wealthy families and politicians and very successful people have found value in whole life insurance for a very, very long time. But then you add in the component of what Nelson Nash discovered with infinite banking. He figured out that you could properly structure a dividend paying whole life insurance policy to create your own private banking system. The people who say that infinite banking is a scam, they simply are either uneducated or they have an agenda. Plain and
mm.
simple.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'll just say, and one of the problems we have in the industry is like there's just so many different opinions, even from so-called, you know, specialists and gurus and agents within the industry. And I think a lot of people are not properly educated. I've heard people say, "Oh, so if I got $1 million in life insurance, death benefit, do I just get to have all of that money in my cash value?" So there's a lot of misconceptions about whole life itself, and that is why it's so easy for people to think it's a scam, because there's agents out there who are overselling the concept and what the concept can do for people, and that's probably why there's people who think it's a scam. But just like Nate just talked about, it is not a scam if you know what you're doing.
Well, and you think about people in personal finance. I mentioned earlier that somebody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda to an extent. The agenda in our organization is that we want to educate you and be excellent stewards of the information so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. That's our agenda. Is we want to just create as much value as we possibly can and bring as much value to the table as we possibly can. And because we are believers, our faith allows us to take a step back and say, hey, we're going to be excellent stewards of the information, and then we're just going to let God take care of the rest of it. And that's how we operate. Our agenda is we want to educate you, plain and simple. What happens after that is completely up to you. If you see the value in what we have taught you, if you see the
Yeah.
value in infinite banking, if you believe it's going to create what you're wanting to create in your life, then not only will we coach you along the way, but we'll also be your agents, and we will write the policy and get it set up for you so that you don't have to go out and search and try to figure out who you're going to work with. So we've already sort of taken that whole process and made it very, very simple for you, where we'll teach you, because we're authorized practitioners through the Nelson Nash Institute. Nelson Nash created the concept. He has the institute that was established under his name. You can go to infinitebanking.org. You can search for authorized practitioners, and you will find myself and my business partner on that list, because we have gone through some specialized training to make sure that the concept is being taught properly. To sum it up, infinite banking is a scam. You tell me. I would just challenge you
Mhm.
to do your own research. Like before you
Right.
decide infinite banking is a scam, go do your own research. Go find people who have experience in this, who can teach you properly, and then determine if it's a scam or not.
Yes, sir. That's right.